Yo everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my 2023 beauty regrets, which I do at the end of every single year. A little bit late this year because I was not well. Surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, I don't have as many things as I thought that I would, which is obviously a good sign, meaning that I bought a lot of good things that I loved this year. However, the vast majority of what I'm looking at is actually base products. So let's get started. The first one being this one, which may surprise some of you. This is the Laura Mercier Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation. My shade is in 3W1 Dusk. I remember I bought this, I think when I was in Texas. It's barely been touched. Like, it looks completely full because I've used it maybe 3 times max. The thing that I don't like about this is that, firstly, it glides on beautifully, almost like a serum kind of texture. But it starts to break down very, very quickly, a lot more quickly than I would expect it to. For me, the perfect amount of time for a foundation to last, for it to be considered good, is 8 to 10 hours, I would say. This does not last that amount of time. It starts to break down very quickly, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it does have that kind of serumy sort of texture. Now, I know a lot of people loved this and it worked great for them, but unfortunately it did not work well for me at all. Bear in mind, I bought this in the spring, so it wasn't even hot, so you can't even blame the weather. So that is my first regret. Another foundation is this one from NYX, which again was unfortunate because I do like NYX's base products normally. Same with Laura Mercier, to be fair. This is the Bear With Me Blurring Tint Foundation. My shade is in 09 Light Medium. Again, same issue as the other one. This one is medium coverage and it's supposed to give a very matte blurred finish, which it does do, but unfortunately when it gets to about hour 5 to 6, it starts to break down on my face and it just does not look good on me at all. I'm somebody who needs long wearing foundations. I'm not always at home. I'm not always wearing my foundation for 5 hours. I'm generally wearing it all day up until the evening. So I need something that is going to last that long, and this does not hold up for me in that respect. This one also may be a surprise because I didn't actually give it a bad review. This is the Fenty Beauty Eavesdrop Blur and Smooth Tint Stick, which was unfortunate because when I first got it, I actually didn't mind it so much. But then when I continuously used it, I just found that it just kind of slid off my face very quickly. We didn't have a very hot summer in the UK this year. Maybe we had 1 or 2 hot days. But what we did have was very, very high humidity. And I found that this just could not handle 80 to 90% humidity, which is almost, we don't get humid weather in the UK generally, but this year was a little bit different. So I found that this just kind of slid off of my face. This has got light to medium buildable coverage and it performs quite nicely on the face and very nicely evens out the skin, but it's just that in terms of longevity, it's just not there for me. My shade is in number 10 because in the Eavesdrop Blurring Skin Tint, I am shade 10. But in this one, it came out darker, so they weren't even consistent in terms of their shade matching, which was a disappointment. So unfortunately, this is one that I may use more in the winter, even though the color is a bit darker and I'm paler, so that doesn't even make sense. So it's just one that is not a great favorite for me. This foundation here, which I shared with you guys at the beginning of the year, this is the Maybelline Superstay Up to 24-Hour Hybrid Powder Foundation. This shade is in 48. If you guys remember when I did the review, I said that the undertone wasn't right for me. It was a little bit on the olive side. Irrespective of that, it's an awful product. It's supposed to be a medium to full buildable coverage matte look foundation. What I found was that the more I tried to build up the coverage, the more fake and cakey I looked. Because it is a powder foundation, there is a very fine line between looking natural and looking cakey, because powder obviously makes you look a lot more fake, rather than something more liquidy makes you look like you've got more natural kind of skin texture. This one firstly rubbed off very, very quickly. It often just made me look patchy in those areas where it rubbed off. Where it had not rubbed off, it looked absolutely flawless. It could not handle humidity, it could not handle sweat, and it could not handle water or rain. And as a result of that, I've just not been a fan of this at all. It just rubs off too quickly. And this is something that is supposed to be up to 24 hours wear. But what if I've had it on 5 minutes and I rub my face like that and it's come off? Like, I've got a very long wearing foundation on. Me just doing that did not remove it onto my finger. That's how it should be for something like this, but unfortunately it wasn't, and as a result of that, it's not a favorite. Again, disappointing because you guys know how much I love Maybelline. This one should definitely not be a surprise because I slated it in the review, and I know a lot of you didn't agree with me, but you know, each to their own. When something works for someone, it doesn't always necessarily work for somebody else. Bear in mind, in case I've not mentioned it, I've got normal to combination skin, but mine is definitely probably more on the normal side these days because of the amount of skincare that I use to control oil in my face. So this is the House Labs Triclone Skin Tech Foundation. Very, very hyped because it is Lady Gaga's makeup line. I hated it. Firstly, it was like 40 odd pounds. It breaks down on the face after 5-6 hours. And not only did it break down, it broke down to the point where it started to actually accentuate my texture and make me look older. I'm at the age where I definitely don't want to look older. I'd like to look young, or as young as possible that looks realistic. And this did not live up to that mark. My shade is in 260 light medium cool, which kind of worked well enough, but even though I've got golden undertones, it still kind of leaned a little bit olive, but enough for me to get away with it. But regardless of that, I thought it was a terrible foundation. The price is definitely because of this glass bottle, but I would prefer a plastic bottle and more money spent on the actual product itself. The problem with their base range is that they contain something like 20 skincare ingredients, and I definitely believe that the more skincare that you put inside foundations and concealers means that it's more likely to break down faster as well. There's no need. We apply skincare first anyway. This should be no surprise. The counterpart to the foundation is also the House Labs Triclone Concealer, which I also hated. My shade is in 23 light medium golden. This is billed as a medium coverage concealer, which it is, but I found that it was way too serumy to the point where as I'm blending it out, it's getting patchy as I'm blending it. It also does not last long at all. Again, 4 to 5 hours. It starts to go patchy, it starts to crease, settle within the lines under my eyes, made me look aged. And wearing this, with this, you can imagine how awful my face looked. So again, waste of money, too expensive, overly hyped, not worth it. Another concealer which I really was disappointed with when I bought this, I remember I bought this in Sephora when I was in Dallas. This is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Quickie up to 24 hour wear multi-use concealer. My shade is in 40 WY, perfect shade for me for brightening. Again, it says up to 24 hour wear. This starts to crease after 2 to 3 hours. Now bear in mind, when I first used this, I was in Dallas, and I went to Dallas at the beginning of the year, so it was still kind of cold. And then at some point during my holiday, I went to Austin. Now Austin was hot, so I wore it in cold temperature, and I wore it in hot temperature, and I wore it in humidity. Every single one, it creased. When I came back to London, and bear in mind February in London is cold, it still creased. So the problem is definitely this rather than the actual temperature itself. Very, very disappointing product. 2 to 3 hours. I don't expect something to crease that fast. So it was a big fat waste of money. Disappointed. This is the Pretty Grunge blush gloss from Huda Beauty in the shade Punk Pink. You guys remember I reviewed this. The concept, I get it, it's great. You know, you apply it clear and then it changes color to kind of match your own skin tone. So mine goes into a very bright pink, but unfortunately this lifts off the foundation. I don't know if you can tell, there's like a stain on it. That's my foundation stained on it, because every time I rubbed it on here and applied it with my finger, the foundation would lift off with the gloss. If I used a brush and did the same, the foundation would lift off with the gloss. So unfortunately, this actually makes your face look very, very patchy. If you wear this on its own with no foundation on, perfectly fine, no issues at all. But who's going to do that? And because of the fact that it is a gloss, in meaning it has got that very liquidy, sticky feel to it, it also starts to slip and slide and break down throughout the day. So it's 100% no from me with this. Last few products, again, Huda Beauty. She came out with these lip blushes midway through the year. I bought all 5 of them. I think there was 5, wasn't it? Again, I understand the concept. It's supposed to be like a lip tint and then also like a liquid blush tint. Now, in terms of using it as a blush, perfectly fine, great product. But in terms of using it on your lips, forget it. Now, I've got darker lips. I've got darker purpley pinky kind of lips, so it looked one color on my bottom lip and it looked another color on my top lip. I had to layer it upon layer it upon layer it and then blot it off. Only then would I get even a wash of color. It's just not worth it. It does not tint the lips enough. Now Fenty Beauty came out with lip tints this year and theirs were perfect. They properly tinted darker color lips. These ones only work very nicely for people that have got naturally pink lips. If you've got darker lips, it'll probably barely show up on you as you try to convince yourself that there is a color there. Yeah, there is a little bit, but is it enough? No. So these, again, not that great. Like I said, great to use on the cheeks, but not so great to use on the lips. Also, it stains the face, as does this. Just bear in mind, if you do choose to buy them, you need to use something oil-based to remove them. So that's it for my 2023 beauty regrets. Not as many as you guys may have thought there would have been, but I've been very picky and choosy with what kind of things that I've been purchasing this year. You know, I do find these videos kind of useful and helpful, especially in terms of people that may be considering purchasing certain things, and what has been a hit or miss in the previous year is always useful to know. Other than that, I hope you guys are wonderful, beautiful, fabulous as always, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!